Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to our Topical Thursday. Topical Thursday is about timely topics with Kathy Keller. She is the director of the Small Business Development Center at Rhodes State College, and we're excited
Hello.
to talk today. Can everybody hear us? Okay, so we will go ahead and get started with the presentation today. You are more than welcome to use the chat box to ask questions, and then after the session, we will answer questions when we're done. We're going to make this short and sweet, so go ahead, Kathy, take it away.
Thank you, Nicole, and welcome, everyone. So glad you could join us today. As Nicole said, we're going to do this on a regular basis. We are shooting for every Thursday at 3:30 as we work through reopening Northwest Ohio and getting back to business. So we primarily want to hear from you and answer any questions you might have. So today I want to talk about the SBA financing programs. This seems to be old information by now, and hopefully most of you have had your questions answered. When the CARES Act was rolled out, basically there were three programs. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan, we'll refer to that as EIDL. And within that loan was the EIDL Advance. Some of you have been approved for some of those loans and have received your money. Some of you are still waiting. Some of you have gotten your advance. As you can imagine, and as we've heard on the news over and over, they were bombarded. So there was many applications. Therefore, it is taking longer than anticipated to process them. I can tell you that you can check the status at the SBA, and there's their 800 number, or you can email them at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. But again, because of the volume, you might expect that it's going to take a little longer than usual to get an answer from them. But that's the best I can tell you. Again, this was direct lending from the Small Business Administration, so your bank has no answers for you. They know nothing more than you do. On the Paycheck Protection Program, however, you were required to use a local lending institute for that. Again, if that program is of interest to you, hopefully you have been in communication with your local bank. Now we know that these programs were basically all exhausted of funds, and the Senate did pass to add $60 billion more for these programs, and the House is expected to vote on that today. Originally, it had been 10 a.m. this morning. My latest communication said it will be later this afternoon. So what does that mean? When will that portal be opened up again at the SBA website for the EIDL loan? It is anticipated, first of all, the president must sign that into law. If it's passed this afternoon, we would assume he will sign that immediately. So that would be this evening, Thursday evening. At best, it would probably be 24 hours after Friday evening. And again, as we know from the first rollout, they did some tweaking to it. So being the weekend, will it be open on the weekend or not? Nobody seems to really know. So my best recommendation to you is just keep checking back. So if you have not yet done the EIDL application and are interested, you need to go to the sba.gov. You can't miss the button for the economic injury disaster loan. And it will either tell you that it is not open, or you can go ahead and apply for that. If you've already applied for the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, through your bank, you'll need to follow up with your bank to see the status on that. Anyone who had already been submitted, any application that had already been submitted to the SBA through the bank prior to the funds being exhausted, is still being processed. You will remain in the queue on the SBA system. However, anyone that did not get into that porthole, you should be in line at your local bank, as they can, when that portal opens, they will start re-entering as well. So again, if you're unsure, I would get a hold of your lender and find out the status on that. Okay, next we're going to talk about what are the next steps. So we heard the governor again today. He's planning to roll out the exact plan, as I understand it, on Monday. So we still are in waiting to hear the exact details of that. But with that, I'd like Nicole to address some of the opportunities we have while we're kind of in the limbo stage.
Thanks, Kathy. I appreciate that. So first, we want to talk about being prepared and what does that mean, and preparedness. And FEMA.gov has a blog, and they have provided a lot of resources for getting prepared in regards to personal protection equipment. So we can say that we know that being prepared is in regards to the resources that you currently have available as a business, and the resources that you're going to need. And some of those may be the personal protection equipment. It also deals with the rules and responsibilities. What role do you play in your business in keeping your customers safe, keeping your staff safe, the responsibilities of your staff, who's designated to do what and when. And that goes along with the policies and procedures that you should be putting in place now, and reviewing your current policies and procedures that you have, and making the changes to those so you can respond in a timely manner and make sure that they're effective in order to move forward in opening your business. We also want to talk about customer recognition, because our customers are important to us, and with that, communication is important. So when you communicate with your customers, you want to own what you're saying and show them that you do care. You need to focus on your key messages. What are your areas of focus for your customers, for your business? Tell them your plan. Make them feel comfortable, but keep it short. And that will also help build relationships with not only the customer base that you have now, but gaining your new customer base. And then, with research, if you don't have a plan now, you got to get one. And you definitely have to revise the plan that you do have. You want to follow the CDC guidelines and the World Health Association guidelines. And then, there are a lot of states that have already opened and that have remained open through this crisis. What are the things that they've been doing that you can implement in your business in order to open back up and to remain keeping your customers safe, keeping your staff safe, what are others doing in your field? But by researching these information, and if you're looking at a different business in another state, by all means, make sure it's going to follow the same state of Ohio guidelines that we'll learn more about on the announcement that Governor DeWine is going to make on Monday. And then most importantly, your team meetings. Your staff needs to feel comfortable. Are you communicating with your staff now? If not, create a communications plan with your staff. Ask them how they feel and how they're doing. Once again, you have to show care. You have to make your staff feel safe. How do they feel about coming back? What are the implementations that you're going to put into consideration with their safety in mind? And also, not to mention, we don't know if daycares are going to be opening back up. What does that mean to your staff members that still have children? Because we know that they're not in schools. There's a possibility that daycares may not open up. We're not aware of these issues right now. So what types of implementations are you going to put in place for the staff that you would like to return back to work that may have children and not able to work? So those are some things that we want to make sure that our businesses and our community are thinking about and planning for moving ahead. There's a lot of information out there. and we're very excited. You know, we're all excited. We all want to move forward, but we know that just because we're opening up doesn't mean that we're all going to get back to our normal lives. So what types of things as a business owner are you going to take, and what steps are you going to implement in order to make sure that not only your staff feels safe, but that your customers feel safe? Because the last thing you want is to plan on opening your building, if you have a brick and mortar, and think that your staff's going to come back to work without having a conversation with them first. And then, you know, showing care is one of the most important things, whether it's to your customers or your staff. And one thing that we've all noticed in this whole thing is, you know, you have to be kind and show safety. And that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I'd like to ensure everybody is that just ensure the community that you're ready to be open and that they're going to be safe when you do. And with that in mind, I'd also like to say that we're going to be doing these every week. Like I said, it's going to be timely topics. Next week, our focus is going to be on business plans and marketing. And we really appreciate you being here with us today. So we're going to go ahead and open it up for questions. You could use the chat box to ask questions or the Q&A at the bottom. This is a recording, so if you weren't able to make it, or you know somebody that wanted to be on that wasn't able to make it, we will have a recording of this available for you. You will also receive the link of the recording in your email upon registering, and we hope to see you next Thursday at 3:30. Have a great day. Oh, we have a question. If you got the EIDL grant, does that mean you are likely to get access to an EIDL loan also?
The EIDL loan is separately based. That is taking 2 to 4 weeks to process. And I have to say it's probably closer to the 4 weeks. I know when it first opened up on April 3rd, I'm hearing across the state that some of the money is just starting to trickle in from the people that applied like the very first day. So please allow it, you know, a matter of time. You will be advised whether you are getting a loan or not. But of course, on the application, you did not specify an amount that you were interested in. That is determined by the SBA, as well as the terms. While it said up to 30 years, it doesn't necessarily mean it will be 30, but the majority of what, again, I've heard has been given a 30-year term. So there's no correlation, because that grant is sort of like the money that most Americans got in their bank account from the government. So that is like the grant for businesses, as opposed to the $1,200 that was a grant to individuals. So they will be looking at that loan. But if you got the grant, you can be assured that they have your application and it's in process.
Awesome, thank you. Dave Stratton had asked a question about the BWC refunds. Dave, we could do a separate topic on the BWC refunds. However, I can inform you that the BWC refunds for the checks were put into the mail earlier this week. So our businesses should be receiving their refunds currently. That's for the premiums that were paid in 18-19. And then also the BWC has restricted payments up until June on their monthly premiums. I can send you more information in regards to that by email. And then Kevin had asked, in light of the Ruth crisis in Shake Shack, do you know if there will be a means test to justify the recipients of PPP loans?
No, I am not aware of anything. So $60 billion that has been allocated. They did do one thing differently this time around. And that is because you and I and our legislatures have all voiced our opinions about our concerns with some of the bigger companies that got a lot of money. You know, they obviously qualified, and that was all justified. And they do have a lot more employees than most of our Main Street businesses here in Northwest Ohio. But it was a little disheartening for all of us. And so what they did this time is they are designating that 30 billion of that goes to the small institutions and credit unions. And they are qualifying that by less than $10 billion assets for the institution, pretty small. And then the other 30 billion goes to those institutions with less than 50 billion in assets. So they are focusing on the smaller, which that typically means it's not the largest businesses that are going to get helped, but more the Main Street who do their banking and have a relationship with the smaller lender. So that's encouraging to me. It's, you know, I'm still not real thrilled, but I was hoping that they would come out with more of a lower gross sales or fewer employee parameter, but they're sticking with the SBA guidelines that have been in existence forever. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for being here and discussing this today. We hope that everything will go smoothly this time around, and look forward to next Thursday at 3:30. And by all means, you can always give us, if you have any further questions, you can contact communications@limachamber.com, and you can reach us there. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Nicole, for hosting.